Welcome to No Broken Legs. NFL Week 1 is here. I am Evan Belfiore. Joining me on the phone is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you on this Saturday afternoon?
Man, I'm wonderful. We got a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Northeast Ohio. The Buckeyes are about to beat up on Oregon, and we're doing Week 1 Pick'em Pod, baby. Let's get it rolling.
I know, it's been a while. We actually get to pick a whole slate of games. But before we do that, let's talk about Thursday night's game briefly. Tampa Bay gets a last-second field goal to beat Dallas. Tom Brady with another fourth-quarter game-winning drive. Jimmy, Tampa Bay failed to cover the 8.5 spread. We both thought this would be kind of a blowout. What happened in this game that kept it close?
Well, it was a lot closer to being a blowout than Dallas Cowboys fans want to admit. I mean, Chris Godwin missed a drop what would have been a touchdown. Tampa Bay suffered multiple injuries in the secondary, which helped Dallas be able to move the ball. I think both teams should come away feeling very happy after that game, because that's got to be a moral victory for Dallas, because plenty of talking heads like us thought they were going to get smacked in the face, and they played okay. And then on Tampa's side, like we talked about, Tampa has a pretty weak schedule this year. Tampa Bay became the first team in NFL history to ever lose the turnover margin by more than 3, give up that many yards of total offense, and still win a football game. Like, it's wild. I mean, Mike McCarthy never ceases to amaze. It's just how poor he is and how he truthfully does not understand analytics. Analytics never say kick a field goal from the 3-yard line.
Yeah, if you're kicking a field goal from inside the 10 against one of the best teams in the league, you're going to lose. It doesn't matter if it's Tampa Bay. It doesn't matter if it's Kansas City. Hell, we saw that with Pittsburgh and Cleveland in the playoff game. Like, you don't win NFL games against good teams by kicking field goals.
Nope. So Tampa's defense did not look as good as the last time we saw them play, but it was Week 1. Tampa didn't play very many starters in the preseason. Secondary, they took some injuries. They did get a lot of pressure on Dak. Dak once again played an amazing game. Tampa, the kind of surprise was just neither team wanting to try to run the football. Like, Tampa has a pretty good offensive line, and even when you sent Ronald Jones into timeout for fumbling, Fournette still never really got carries, which was weird. I think both teams will have to find some kind of identity running the ball, because you cannot sustain winning games throwing the ball 58 times. Like, Dallas looked good, but I think if that's Dallas's recipe, I think they're going to look good in a lot of losses.
Yeah, and one of the things that really struck me watching the 2021 Dallas Cowboys was how much they reminded me of the 2020 Dallas Cowboys. They cannot run the football. Mike McCarthy makes bad coaching decisions, and Dak Prescott winds up in places where he has to bail them out. And I'm going to take a little victory lap on Dak. I said he was going to be fine. I actually took him in one of the fantasy leagues we're in. He's going to put up a ton of numbers as long as something catastrophic like last year doesn't happen to him. He's a beast.
Yeah, I was curious how he would look, and he looked great. So kudos to him.
I think that's enough on that game, and I think we should go to the headliner of Week 1. Our Cleveland Browns traveling to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Jimmy, Kansas City is a 5.5-point favorite. This line was higher. It was almost 6.5, and it's been dropped down a point. The over-under for this game sits at 54.5, and right now the money lines, the Chiefs are minus 250, the Browns are plus 200. How do you see this game playing out for our Cleveland Brownies, Jimmy?
So all these lines continue to move. When I placed bets yesterday, the money line was at plus 200, or was it plus 215 on the Browns.
So there's been a lot of action on Cleveland's side.
So it keeps moving. I'm taking all 3 of these bets. I am betting the over. I think there's going to be a ton of points. I'm betting the Browns. I feel very confident the Browns can cover the 5.5, and I think can use the 5.5 to their advantage. And I think there's a chance the Browns win the game outright. So I'm betting all 3 of these. Man, defensively, the Browns have the structure. They kind of followed the blueprint of what Tampa did to Kansas City in the Super Bowl. They've got depth. They've got speed. If they can slow down Travis Kelce at all, there's no reason to believe that the Browns cannot compete possibly win this football game. And as we've stated, they don't even have to win. As long as they keep this game close, like Kansas City is one of the elite teams in the NFL. If the Cleveland Browns come out and look like they should be able to come out and look, it's going to be a positive. Much like Dallas against Tampa, if Cleveland loses a close game, hopefully by less than 5.5, it's going to be a win for the Browns. But I think structurally, roster-wise, I think the Browns have a great chance in this football game. Like I said, for me, the only concern is the Chiefs finding a way early to get Travis Kelce on Mac Wilson. That scares me. Other than that, I think the Browns match up really well. I think they're going to be hungry. If they can sustain the first few minutes, because I got to imagine Arrowhead is going to be rocking. That place is going to be crazy. Andy Reid's going to have some great stuff dialed up. But if they can sustain those first couple, like Mike Tyson knockout uppercuts they're going to get early, I think they have a very good chance in this football game.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Browns, and what I'll really be looking at is how does that Chiefs offensive line hold up against the Browns pass rushers? How does Joe Woods attack if they're not getting pressure early? What does he do to try to generate some pressure? The other big thing on defense with the Browns is all of the new guys on the back end. I think we're both in agreement that they could have just brought in anybody and they'd be better, but they brought in real players. Johnson, yes. Hill, Greg Newsome, the rookie, looks fantastic. Even if you don't get Delpit or Greedy Williams in there, they have a lot of pieces on that side of the ball that match up well against Kansas City. I think one of the key stats that nobody's really talking about is over under 2.5 miscommunications that lead to big plays for Kansas City in the secondary. I think if the Browns keep that number to 1 or 2, they can win this football game. If that number's if that number is 3 or more, they're going to be in a lot of trouble because that's just too many points to give up on easy plays. But I think overall, I think this defense is going to look a lot like the offense did last year. I think there's going to be moments in their buys week 10, week 11.
Yeah.
So I think we are going to talk about the Browns defense next season like we talk about the Browns offense this offseason, where we look at there's a clear delimiter of the bye week where we say, they looked okay before the bye, but you could see flashes, but there were still mistakes, and then they used the bye to gel, and they just really came down the stretch and played great. I think that's what we're going to see from the defense this year. The question is, how much do they look great and how much miscommunication is there?
I don't believe the Chiefs are going to be able to stop the Browns offense. I have not checked today. As of yesterday, Honey Badger was, I believe, still in COVID protocol and would not be available for the game. I don't know if that's changed today or not. I don't think they can stop the Browns offense. They may be able to slow them down. I don't think they can stop them. It's just going to be, like you said, don't let Tyreek Hill get behind you more than 2 or 3 times. He's going to get behind you once or twice.
Tyrann Mathieu is still in COVID protocol, but there is a chance he'll play Sunday. I don't think that'll be announced probably until tomorrow.
Yeah, so, but then it's keeping the yards after catch down, right? It's Travis Kelce's going to get a ton of catches, but you got to tackle him after he gets the ball. You got to keep Edwards-Helaire from busting anything big. Like, I think the defense is built for this game. I think Baker Mayfield will have his squad ready to go. I think they're going to be crisp. I think Kevin Stefanski wants this game. This is a big time game for Kevin Stefanski to show everybody, like, yeah, I'm ready. Like, I am ready. I am a top 5 coach in the AFC. I am ready for this, and we're going to come and get the job done.
The big problem that they'll be facing is Andy Reid teams always start out really well, and Patrick Mahomes is currently 10-0 with no interceptions in September.
Yes.
So that's really what they're up against. I just like their ability to keep this close. I think if they win the coin toss, they really need to take the ball and set the tone offensively to try to keep that crowd down. I don't think you want that crowd in the game right from the get-go with Kansas City on the ball. Like that's what they want. That's what the Chiefs want. They want to get the ball and they want to have an opportunity to march down the field, and that crowd's just going to be intense.
Yeah.
All right, we will definitely be covering this game in depth after it's over. Any final thoughts on this game, Jimmy, before we move to the rest of the slate?
No, I kind of want to talk about just in general picking for week one and for fantasy. Like, there are a lot of talking heads that are with us on the Browns, and there are a lot that are against the Browns. But the problem is, a lot of people that are against the Browns are because it's the same old Browns, but these aren't the same old Browns. But, when we do this for week one, it's really like taking a midterm on the first day of class, right? Because we don't have any significant current data to make any decisions on, right? This is all based on roster construction, team infrastructure, trying to decide what players may boom, bust, who's going to regress to the mean, who's going to overcome their regression from last year, things like that. So week one, it's tough, but the smartest people in the industry all work for Pro Football Focus at PFF, and they say the Cleveland Browns have one of the best rosters in the NFL. For a while, they were sitting at number one. I don't know if they still are, but there's no reason to believe the Cleveland Browns are not going to compete in this football game. I think they're going to compete. I really do think they're going to have a chance to win the game. To me, this is just a big spot for Baker. It's a big spot for Nick Chubb. It's a big spot for Jadeveon Clowney. He's heard a lot of people say it really wasn't that big of a deal. You weren't very good last year. It's not that big of a deal. Well, he comes out and sacks Patrick Mahomes a couple times. It becomes a big deal. And then people see how much of a problem this defense can be. So I'm just excited for a lot of the games this week, but the Browns game is the one. But there's no reason to not look at these two teams right now and not think the Browns are less than a touchdown as good as the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think another thing to mention about not just week one lines, but generally it takes Vegas about 3 to 5 weeks to adjust to teams that are not what they're expected to be. So if a team's going to be worse than expected, they're going to get more points than normal because Vegas will overrate them before making the adjustment. And the same thing with teams that are bad that look good early. But
Yep.
You also have to watch out for the fool's gold. We thought Jacksonville might go winless last year, and they won their first game. So,
Yep.
So the first couple of weeks, weird things can happen. So just, be careful out there, everyone. So moving on to the rest of the slate, the next game that really caught my eye, and I think is a big one for Cleveland Browns fans to look at, is the Baltimore-Las Vegas game. Baltimore has just had a ton of injuries, and we had one of the guys in our Browns group actually put a thing out that asked, did it just take 20 years for the Cleveland curse to move to Baltimore? And, here's hoping. But the Ravens are traveling to Las Vegas. They are 4-point favorites. The over-under on this game is 50 points. The Ravens are minus 200 on the money line. The Raiders are plus 155 on the money line. Jimmy, neither one of us has had much good to say about the Raiders. Do you think the Ravens, even with the injuries, can go into Vegas and ruin their home opener there?
So the line is still at -4, correct?
Still at 4.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Maybe some late action after Gus Edwards goes down. So here's the thing. There are a lot of people that I've listened to this week that have made a lot of good arguments for why the Raiders are going to cover this spread and possibly win the game. At least cover the spread. They think it's a field goal game. It's the first home game with fans in Las Vegas. The stadium's going to be rocking. Baltimore has suffered all kinds of injuries to key pieces everywhere. But I can't, after the way I talked about the Raiders, believe that Baltimore, even on their fifth-string running back, is not still a touchdown better than the Raiders. So this is actually one of my 5 locks for the week. Nice. I believe the Ravens cover this pretty easy. I think we're going to find out if the two guys they got playing running back are any good because they're going to get a ton of carries. I think even without Marcus Peters, the Ravens defense will be able to turn over Mr. Carr. I think this is a pretty easy win for the Ravens to start the season. I do think the injury to Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters will change my season-long outlook on the Ravens because those are key pieces that you're not going to have in really big primetime games. So overall for the season, I think their slew of injuries have now probably caught up with them, but it won't affect them this week.
Yeah, I'd kind of like my Baltimore over wins bet back because I'm not sure they're going to get there. I think they're still a playoff team, but with all the injuries, I don't know if they quite reach the heights that they were going to reach before. One of the talking points I've heard during this week when people talk about this game is that Las Vegas's D coordinator was with the Chargers. We all know the Chargers had a lot of success in that playoff game. Or was it the playoff game or the week before the playoff game?
I think
it might have been both.
Game.
Anyway, they had a lot of success shutting down Lamar Jackson, and I know of I've heard people talk about how that could be used to Las Vegas's strength, but the big problem that Las Vegas is going to have is they don't have the talent on defense that the Chargers did. So I don't think that's going to wind up being a thing. I think Baltimore wins this game. I'm not as confident because of the injuries, but if they look really good, that'll tell me that Baltimore's injuries aren't as bad as we thought they were, and that Las Vegas is everything that we think they are.
Exactly.
All right, staying in the AFC North, there's another big matchup where our rival Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling to Buffalo, Jimmy. The Steelers started out hot and then fell apart. The Bills are a trendy Super Bowl pick. The Bills open up as 6.5-point favorites. The over-under on this is 48 points, which is mystifyingly low to me. Bills are minus 286 on the money line. The Steelers are plus 225. Jimmy, what do you think happens in this game? Can the Steelers start strong again?
Well, I was really hoping they wouldn't get the TJ Watt contract done in time to make this easier. For me, the way I've projected out this season, I can't believe the Bills are not a touchdown better than the Steelers. So I'm taking the Bills, and I agree. I'm not going to bet the over-under, but if I was, I would take the over because it seems like there's going to be points scored. The Bills are really, really good. I don't believe all the yammering about how good of shape Ben Roethlisberger looks, how good this offense is going to be, how they're going to bounce back. This is Najee Harris's first game as a pro. I don't think he's going to run all over Buffalo. I think this is going to be real tough sledding for Pittsburgh to start the season. I think Buffalo wins this game by a touchdown, so the 6.5 doesn't scare me off.
I'm taking Pittsburgh, and I'm making it one of my 5 locks.
Attaboy, I love it.
I think Pittsburgh... I think what happened last year with Pittsburgh was they weren't as good as we thought they were at the beginning of the season, but I also don't think they were as bad as we thought they were at the end of the season, so there's that bad taste in everyone's mouth, and everyone's punishing them for it. I think they're going to come out and start strong again like they did last year. I don't necessarily think they can sustain it over the course of the season, but they're going to come out ready to play because they've spent all off season hearing about how garbage they are and about how they lost to the Browns in the playoffs and yada yada. And they're going to want to come back and they're going to want to smack somebody in the mouth. And the best way to do that is to come out strong against Buffalo. I think the offense will be able to move the ball, and I think the defense will be able to slow down Buffalo. I think better defenses slow down the Buffalo offense because they have no running game. You know they're going to throw the ball, and that's when you're one-dimensional on offense, it makes it easier to defend you. And if you're a good defense, you can really make hay against offenses that are one-dimensional.
Yeah, but I don't think Pittsburgh's defense is nearly as good as you think they are. They've lost a lot of key pieces, and there's nothing they can do Sunday except try to put Joe Hayden one-on-one with Stephon Diggs. And Josh Allen's going to eat that all day. I agree with you. Pittsburgh's going to want to try to come out and punch Buffalo in the mouth, but I think they're going to swing and miss a whole bunch. I think it's going to be late in the game, Pittsburgh will get back in it, but I think Buffalo is going to big brother Pittsburgh early in this game. I think their defense is built to stop exactly what Pittsburgh's offense might be able to do, and I don't think Pittsburgh's defense can stop what Buffalo's going to do.
I think that's fair all around, and we'll see how this plays out. I don't know. Yes. I don't really know if there's a result in this game that's bad for the Browns. I mean, if Pittsburgh loses, then Pittsburgh loses. But if Pittsburgh wins this game, that's already a knock on Buffalo, and I think it's going to be a tight race between Cleveland, Buffalo, and Kansas City for that number 1 seed.
Yeah, it's probably actually better if Pittsburgh wins and Buffalo doesn't look as good as everybody thinks. Because, I mean, there's always possibility that Josh Allen regresses a little bit back to what he was every year of his life as a quarterback before last year. But I like what I've seen. I think they're going to be good, but this is by far one of the – I mean, I think the Chiefs, Browns, and the Bills, Steelers, at least on the AFC side, are the 2 biggest games of the weekend. I think they're really important for a lot of things.
Yeah, and I would say the third most important game is the next one we're going to talk about here. The Miami Dolphins are traveling to New England to take on the Patriots. Their new quarterback, Mac Jones, will be getting his first start. The Patriots open as 3-point favorites. This was 3.5 yesterday, so a lot of action on the Dolphins. The over-under point-wise is 43.5. The Patriots are minus 175 on the money line. The Dolphins are plus 155. How does this play out between two teams that are really going to need this win when it comes to late season playoff positioning?
Well, I believe the Patriots are going back to the playoffs, and I believe part of that is going to be, with the exception of one loss at Buffalo, I think they're going to be really good in the division. I have the Patriots winning this game. Like I said, I saw it with you yesterday. The line was 3.5, but now it's down to 3. I don't think Miami is going to be able to keep this to a field goal game. I think this game is going to be eerily reminiscent of the start of the Tom Brady era, which was the most frustrating time for fantasy owners because you couldn't have any pieces, any shares of players on one of the better offenses in the league because it was a bunch of no-name guys who you didn't really know who was going to score the touchdowns, who were going to get the targets, who were going to get the carries, but they were going to win every week. And I think that's what New England is going to do. Mac Jones looked really good in the preseason. He looked like he was processing fast. I think this offense is going to look really good. I think Jonnu Smith is going to get a ton of touches tomorrow. I think New England's going to win this game. I think New England's going to surprise people. And I haven't seen enough from Tua yet to believe that he's going to not be able to be slowed down by a Bill Belichick defense. So I got New England in this one.
Yeah, I'm taking New England, and I'm making it one of my 5 locks. This very simply comes down to Tua versus Belichick. They've got all those guys back on defense, and you know Belichick's going to come up with stuff that just mystifies Tua, and they're just not. And the Dolphins are just not dynamic enough to overcome that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the teams that will be battling those two teams for a playoff start is the Los Angeles Chargers. They are playing the Washington football team that Jimmy and I have decided we're just going to call the Armada moving forward.
Yes, they're the Armada.
The Armada's home opener, they start out as 1.5-point favorites over the Chargers. The over-under on this is 44.5. The football team is minus 124 on the money line, and the Chargers are even money here, Jimmy. Can the Chargers travel cross-country and strike first blood against the Armada?
As I know, you always do the lines as we're doing this. So the line right now is Armada plus 1.5.
No, they're minus 1.5. They're favorites.
So it's Chargers plus 1.5.
Yes.
So this line is kind of moved here and there because this is really one of the games this week where, like us, Vegas really has no idea which one of these teams are better. I think both of these teams are in the middle pack playoff range for their divisions. I'm taking the Chargers. I want the Chargers to win. I think the Chargers need this game if they're going to compete for a playoff spot. That being said, I did take the Armada to win the NFC East. This is going to be a rough test for Justin Herbert. The kid looked great last year, but this is his first game where there are going to be fans in the stands. The people that come out for the Armada are expecting a good game, and the Armada's front seven is one of the best in the league. So it's going to be crazy to see which unit plays better. Is it the Chargers offense or is it the Armada's defense? Right now, I'm taking the Chargers. This is one of the couple games this week that I would never bet this game, but we pick every game, so I'm taking the Chargers because I just want to watch this football game. Like, I really just want to watch what the Chargers look like with a coach that's not Anthony Lynn with this roster while they're healthy, and I want to see what Fitzpatrick is able to do to help that Armada defense.
I'm taking Washington and making it a lock.
I understand.
I love that defense against the Chargers. I think they're going to be able to pressure Herbert into making a mistake or two. And I think the honeymoon period starts out well for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think Washington gets out to a fairly decent start before he falls off the cliff like he always does. I think Washington strikes first here, and the Chargers play a close game, but they can't win it. And maybe that starts some questioning on that roster with the new coach. Do they have the right coach? Nothing serious, but I think it's a bad start for the Chargers.
Yeah, it is a rough draw. It is a rough draw traveling across the country. A great defense, first time with fans in the stand for Herbert. It was a tough draw, and I think this is going to be one of the better games of the weekend. I think it's going to be a sneaky good game. If you have a chance to watch this on a split screen or something, if you're at the bar, check this game out. I think it's going to be really competitive. I think it's going to be a really good football game.
Yeah, and I'll mention it here. I'm going to mention it more when we talk about the Denver New York Giants football game. But Washington's at home for this. It's 9/11 weekend. You know they're going to have a lot of tribute stuff. That's going to get the crowd amped. The players are going to be amped. I think that's going to play into the Washington game and the Giants game that we'll get to here in a minute.
Yeah, I totally agree. It does matter. It really does. And like I said, I have no confidence in taking the Chargers in this game. I really don't. This is just a game that I'm just like, man, this is good. I just want to watch this game.
Yeah, and another game that I'm really interested to watch, the Aaron Rodgers saga with the Green Bay Packers heads down to New Orleans to see a new look Saints team. The Packers are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under on this is 49.5. The Packers are minus 195 on the money line. The Saints are plus 155 on the money line. Jimmy, we're both shorting the Saints. Are you with me that they're going to drop this game?
You probably would have. This spread probably would have had to get into double digits for me to not take the Packers. I don't understand how on a neutral field Vegas thinks the Packers are only 3.5 points better than the Saints. I don't get it. I think this is a great start for the Packers. It sucks for the Saints to have to play this game away from home. That does stink. But I don't think the Packers are going to have any trouble in this game. This is my second lock of the week. I think the Packers handle this one with no problems.
This is my fourth lock of the week, so we're in lockstep with this one. I think Rodgers comes out and does what he did last year and just makes the point. He's just going to go out and he's going to dominate and he's going to be great and he's just going to put all of the sideshow shit to bed.
Yeah.
All right. We now move into, we have three games here in a row that I want to talk about from the NFC West, where an NFC West team is playing what we both think is not going to be very good teams in other conferences. We'll start with the LA Rams. Matt Stafford is opening up as a 7.5-point favorite against the Bears. Jimmy, you love the Rams. You think they're going to be great this year. How do you think they start the season off against Chicago?
I think they start the season off by beating the Chicago Bears by at least 2 scores. So I have the Rams with a pretty easy win. I'm not going to make it a lock, but I think the Bears have a good front four. The front seven's pretty good, but they got a bunch of kids in the secondary, and Matt Stafford, Bobby Trees, and Cooper Kupp are about to eat this week, bud. It's going to be a great start for my Super Bowl pick, LA Rams. I don't think this game's going to be particularly close. I think the Rams defense is going to destroy Andy Dalton. If Justin Fields played in this game, it wouldn't surprise me. That's how bad I think it's going to go for Chicago.
I'm pretty much in agreement. I didn't make this a lock because the line's so high and I don't know what's going to happen with the Bears. Does it get bad enough that they bring Fields in the second half and he looks good? I just don't know. One thing I do like, the over-under is 46.5 points. I like the over on that.
I would probably stay away from that one myself because I could see this being like 28-10 Rams.
Oh, I think the Rams are going to put 35 on them easy.
I love it.
So our next contest here, the San Francisco 49ers, who you are not as high on as myself and a lot of other people are, they are playing the awful Detroit Lions. They're traveling across country to Detroit. The Niners are 8.5-point favorites in this game, Jimmy. The over-under is 45.5. San Francisco is minus 385 on the money line. The Lions are plus 290. Nobody really thinks the Lions are winning this game except people in Michigan. Do your 49ers come through for you, Jimmy, and lay an egg here and make you right?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. This is a lock for me. I'm taking the 49ers. I think they're going to get a lot of wins outside the division. But
yeah.
But this is a lock. It's funny. 8 was not enough. That was what the spread was yesterday, and the action keeps going to the Niners, raising it up to 8.5. I think you'd have to put it at 12 before I would consider taking the Lions. Dude, the Lions roster is horrible. They did not make any moves at wide receiver since we talked last. So Kadero Hodge, still the best wide receiver on their roster. DeAndre Swift hasn't played at all. He's not healthy. He's got nagging stuff. He hasn't practiced much. The Lions are going to be really bad. The Niners are going to look like a Super Bowl contender in this game. They are going to beat the pants off of the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, my notes for this game are Niners good, Lions bad.
Yeah,
it's pretty much all this boils down to. Another game from the NFC West that I have similar notes on. The Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson and the boys are heading to Indianapolis. They are 3-point favorites against the Colts. The over-under on this game is 49 points. Seattle is minus 149 on the money line. The Colts are plus 125 on the money line. Jimmy, neither one of us like the Colts. We think they're going to struggle this year. This is my 5th lock of the week. I love for Seattle to come in and really take it to them.
Yeah, this is a lock for me as well. I don't understand why this is only 3 points. If it's just if this was at home, maybe it would be 7, so they're giving the Colts some points. I don't know. I just don't get it. Carson Wentz hasn't played his best receiver. His best 2 receivers are Michael Pittman and Naheem Hines. I think
the Colts are also on their 3rd left tackle.
Yeah, I think the Colts are really going to struggle. I think the Seahawks will win this game at least by a touchdown. So this is a pretty easy one for me.
Yeah, I don't have much to add except my notes were the same. Seattle good, Indy bad.
Yep.
How long into this season do you think we get before the Frank White questions start popping up?
I don't think they'll start up because everybody loves Frank Reich beside us.
Interesting. I have seen there's been a lot of action on Matt Nagy to be the first coach fired, which plays into what you said about the Bears early in the season. Maybe he doesn't even get a chance to coach Justin Fields.
Yeah, like I said, man.
Which would be wild. Just wild.
Yeah, Justin Fields is going to get to play quarterback, but I don't believe it'll be for Matt Nagy. I truthfully, we talked about that. I won't get back into it, but yeah, my money would also be on Matt Nagy as the first head coach gone.
Well, 2 other teams that have coaches that could be on the hot seat depending on how this season goes are the Denver Broncos and the New York Giants. The New York Giants are home for this game, but they are 3-point underdogs to Denver. The over-under is 41.5. The money line for the Broncos is minus 155. For the Giants, it's plus 135. I prefaced this earlier. They are going to have a huge 9/11 tribute before this game. The crowd is going to be insane. I'm picking the Giants to win this game outright, Jimmy.
Wow, getting that money line action going. I don't feel as confident about them winning. I'm taking the Giants at plus 3. I think it'll be a push. I think these teams are a field goal away from each other. Denver has one of the best defensive lines in the league, and the Giants may have the worst offensive line in the league. That's going to be a problem. We don't know what Saquon's health is. The wide receivers for the Giants are all a little banged up, and we don't know what Danny Dimes is really yet. But I do agree with you. There's going to be a big-time influence for the Giants in the stands. And I think the Giants' defense is good enough to not let Teddy Bridgewater get this game out of control. So I'm taking the Giants at plus 3. I'm not as confident as the win. I think it'll be a push, but I fully understand why you think they'll win.
Well, I picked them to win the division, and if they're going to win the division, they have to win this game.
Yeah, they have to beat teams like Denver. Absolutely.
Our next contest features the Atlanta Falcons hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. The Falcons are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under on this is 48.5. The money line for the Falcons is minus 179. The money line for the Eagles is plus 155. I think the Eagles are going to be really bad this year, and I think Atlanta is going to be better. So I'm taking Atlanta. What do you think these two teams look like in this game, Jimmy?
Well, I think both of these teams suck, but I think Atlanta will suck just less enough to win this game by a touchdown. So I got Atlanta. This is a game that I'm going to watch for fantasy purposes because I think Jalen Hurts, Michael Pitts, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, Devonta Smith I think these guys are all going to have big individual days, but I think when it comes down to it, I think Atlanta will win this game by a touchdown. But I'm not excited overall, but I do think there'll be some great individual performances. I think Jalen Hurts is going to look better than he actually is in this one. So I think Philly's offense will look okay. I don't trust their defense to slow down the weapons Atlanta has. So I got Atlanta winning this one pretty easily.
I don't trust Hurts at all. And for him to look better than we think he is not going to be a very tall bar because I don't think he's very good.
Okay.
And I think this is just a game where you look at the quarterbacks and like I just don't see. Well, I guess I shouldn't say I don't see how Atlanta could lose to this team because Atlanta is known for losing games they should win all the time. But I just don't see how they're going to start out the season losing to this crappy Eagles team.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next game, the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals, two teams with a lot of questions. The Titans are 3-point favorites here, Jimmy. What should we expect from these teams? The Titans have Julio Jones. Arizona's looking to bounce back after a disappointing second half of the season. How do they start out?
I'm taking the Cardinals at +3, just like the Giant-Denver game. I think this will be a push. I think these teams are about a field goal away from each other. Either way it goes, I wouldn't bet anything. I do like the over in this one. I think both their defenses stink.
Over-under sits at 53.5.
Yeah, it was 52 yesterday. So a lot of action on the over. I think they both defenses stink. Both offenses are going to score points. I think in the end the Titans may win, but I like the Cardinals at +3 here. This is a game I'm really not interested in because I feel like I know enough about both of these teams to have a pretty good idea of how this game is going to play out. Kyler Murray's going to – I think the Titans will get up. Then Kyler Murray will do some stuff. DeAndre Hopkins will do some stuff. Hopefully my boy Chase Edmonds will look pretty good. And the Cardinals will end up covering their +3.
I like Tennessee in this game. I don't love it. I think Tennessee's just better. I don't think that defense matches up against that. I don't think the Arizona defense matches up very well against Tennessee. I think they'll be able to do what they want in terms of running the ball and using that to set up the pass. I just don't trust I just don't trust Kingsbury. I don't think he's a good coach. I know they started out well last year, which probably bodes well for him in this game, but I don't think he can make in-game and in-season adjustments to keep his team ahead of the pace.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. If I believed Derrick Henry was going to get like 25 carries in this football game, I would be right with you. But I think they're going to want to come out and showcase how Julio Jones makes their passing game better, which we've talked about constantly, that I think that's the weakness of their team, not a strength on the offense. And I think they're actually going to start out pretty slow, and then they'll be like, oh, hey, maybe we should just give the ball to Derrick Henry, and then they'll be okay. But I don't disagree with you about Kingsbury. If this game comes down to a coaching decision, there's a lot of coaches I don't like Vrabel more than, but I do like him more than Kingsbury. So,
yeah, and I don't think Tannehill's going to have all that much problem with this defense. I think they can throw on this defense with Jones and A.J. Brown. I just don't think Arizona has the personnel to stop them.
I was just going to say, you may be right. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. And something that I'm sure everybody will be watching on Sunday is the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing the Houston Texans in a game that nobody would be watching if it wasn't for Trevor Lawrence's debut. The Jaguars are opening as 3-point road favorites, Jimmy. 45.5 is the over-under. The money line for the Jaguars is -175. For the Texans, it's +148. How does the Trevor Lawrence era and the Urban Meyer era begin?
Well, if it wasn't for one game we have less, this would be a lock for me. I'm taking the Texans at +3. I may bet the Texans money line as well. I think the Jaguars will score points. I think the Houston Texans have built a roster of veteran players who are going to come out the first few weeks and showcase how good they are to try to get on other teams and get the Texans more draft picks.
I'm actually in agreement with you, Jimmy. I think Houston not only covers, I think they win this game. I don't love it in terms of betting it, but this has a lot of feel of just all of the shit that Houston has been putting up with the whole off season, everything with Deshaun Watson. He's not going to be there. I'm assuming they're just going to tell him to stay home. I mean, he's not going to be on the sidelines or anything. And I think having that removed is just going to allow the Texans to just focus on football for a change. And I think they get a win here, and then I don't think they get a win for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird to me that a team that was as bad as the Jaguars last year, that changed so much stuff and looked so bad in the preseason, could be a 3-point road favorite. Like, I don't understand that. I think that's way undervaluing the roster of the Houston Texans. So I'm in agreement with everything you said there.
All right, let's move on to our next game. We have the Minnesota Vikings and the Cincinnati Bengals in another game that most people probably won't pay much attention to. The Vikings are 3-point favorites on the road. The over-under on this is 47.5. The Vikings are minus 167 on the money line. The Bengals are plus 140. I like the Vikings here, Jimmy, but I'm not very confident in this.
You should be. You should be confident on this. Like, there's nothing good right now coming out of Bengals camp. Joe Burrow says he's hesitant. Their wide receiver says he's not quite sure why he's dropping passes. Joe Mixon might be a bright spot, but I feel like the line makers forgot to look at how much the Vikings defense is upgraded from last year. I do not understand how the Vikings are only 3 points at the Bengals. This is my last lock. Minnesota covers this easy. The Bengals do not have the pieces on the back end to handle what the Vikings have in pass catchers. This is an easy win for Minnesota. They cover this easily.
Nice, a lot of confidence there in the Vikings. I like that because I think they're going to be good again. I think they're going to have a bounce back year, and
yeah, I do too.
That'll make Cousin Len happy because he was not happy watching the Vikings last year.
No, he was not.
I'll also say I think Dalvin Cook's going to be a monster in this game. I have no idea how the Bengals stop him.
Yeah, I don't either.
All right, our last game that we'll cover is the Carolina Panthers and the New York Jets. Jimmy, it is the Sam Darnold revenge game. The Panthers are 4-point favorites. Does Sam Darnold win his home opener here against his former team?
Yeah, I think this will be the best game that Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson have ever played when the Jets were on the field. I think, however, whatever Sam Darnold's ceiling is, whatever prime ultimate Sam Darnold Super Saiyan mode is, it's got to come out in this game. Like, for Matt Rule and Joe Brady, you cannot come out against the Jets with Sam Darnold and not put up points. Even if somehow the Jets were to beat you, which I don't think they will, I'm taking the Panthers at -4. You have to score points against the Jets with Sam Darnold. Because if not, it brings into question everything you're doing, everything you're trying to do. They may very well have the long-term plan, as you stated. We know if we keep Teddy Bridgewater, we're going to win 7 or 8 games. We need a quarterback that's either going to win 10 or 11 games or win 1 or 2 games. So that very, very well be the plan. I don't know. But I know in this game, you've got to draw up everything that Sam Darnold is comfortable with. You've got to get your wide receivers open. Christian McCaffrey needs like 35 touches, whether it's running or receiving, and you've got to dominate this football game. I do like some pieces for the Jets. I don't know how good Zach's going to be. He's looked okay at times. I don't know, but they do have some pieces, a few players. But I think the Panthers win this game pretty handily.
Yeah, I like the Panthers as well. The Jets stink. Zach Wilson's a rookie opening up on the road with a bad team. That we saw that enough with the Browns. That never goes well. And I think Carolina actually gets a decent start to this season, and they look all right. I don't think anybody should buy the hype, but I agree with you. I think Darnold actually looks pretty good in this game.
Yep.
All right, Jimmy, that's the slate for week 1. Any final thoughts on the first week of the NFL, these games that we have coming up?
Not really. I just think, like I said, I mean, there are a few real primetime games here. The 49ers line at -8.5 is wild to me that it just keeps going up, which just kind of lets you know what we think about Detroit. There were a lot of road teams giving points in week 1, which is kind of weird. It lets you know how bad Vegas feels about some of these home teams. But there are a couple primetime games, and then there are some teams like they can't slip up if they want their playoff shot. Like, Seattle can't slip up with Indy. The Vikings can't slip up with the Bengals. Your Giants, if they're going to make a playoff push, they can't slip up with Denver. Armada probably needs to beat the Chargers and vice versa in that one. So, like I said, there are 4 or 5 games this week I'm really excited to watch, but I do think the Browns, Chiefs, and the Steelers, Bills are probably the 2 primetime games of the week that are the most important. And then it will be fun, too. Like, I've always been impressed by how Harbaugh just kind of stays status quo and beats teams he's supposed to beat. And I really want him to bury the Raiders so I can be right.
I think that's really the game that I'm looking at the most in terms of overall season importance. If the Ravens come out and look flat, that just paves the road for the Browns to dominate this division.
Yeah, I agree.
I will make one more betting note. I do like, if you can find a way to tease the Rams and the 49ers, if you can tease them down a touchdown so that you have the Rams with 0.5 point and the Niners with 1.5 points, I think that's a good 2-team tease that'll pay off for you, because I think both those teams win pretty easy.
Yeah, I do agree. That's really nicely done. I would agree.
We are going to do a separate podcast where we talk about our fantasy picks for the week. That will be coming up shortly. But for right now, Jimmy, thank you for joining me for the Week 1 picks.
Man, no place I'd rather be, brother.
And thank you for listening. For Jimmy Champ, I am Evan Belfiore, and we are No Broken Legs.
Every action has a repercussion. Lyrical bullets don't make me get the bussin'.